Hey everybody, my name's Mary Heidbreyer, and I've been helping start employee benefits for 20 years or more now. And I want to say without our sponsors, we wouldn't be here today, so let's all make sure we stop by and say hi. And what I will be doing today is, after I give everybody thank you, we have some information about the Denver Startup Week itself. We have our title sponsors, Amazon, Capital One Cafe, Dell for Startups, and the Downtown Denver Partnership. If you haven't swung by the Denver Startup Week headquarters, it's a really neat place to check out. It's in the Denver Partnership buildings. And then this is part of the people track. So I know it's Thursday. Everybody's been through this 15 million times, but they asked us to always mention it. And then we also are asking you to follow our code of conduct. So it's very important to Denver Startup that we're inclusive, that we're accepting, and that everybody feels like they're in a safe place. And that's what this program is for, and the whole week has been about. So let's make sure we follow that. And then please feel free to take pictures and do hashtag Denver Startup Week or hashtag MLJ Insurance, both of them, and show that you're participating, because we want to get the word out to everybody about Denver Startup Week and see if we can't have an even bigger year next year. Here's our presenters, the ones I mentioned. And as mentioned, people track sponsor is Emerge. So if you need to find employees, they're the people to talk to. Here's a number of other sponsors, and MLJ Insurance is one of the sponsors. We're not just here to give information, but we're also here to give financial support and also volunteer. And I have a co-sponsor with me, Kaiser Permanente. So I am at MLJ Insurance, which is a insurance brokerage. MLJ, and just a second, I forgot to start my timer. Wanted to do that. So bear with me. Okay. I have my own agency. I'm Colorado-born company, and it's a family-owned business. We've been in Boulder County for 20 years, as I mentioned. We're also known as a broker or benefits agency, but we couldn't do what we do as brokers, which is, I'll go over what we do, help you without the carriers and other support that we call our upline. So Kaiser Permanente has agreed. We have Lana here with us. They've sponsored me, helped me sponsor, and helped me present. And so she's a representative with Kaiser Permanente, one of the 3 Colorado carriers that offer small group insurance in Colorado. And what an insurance broker is. How many of you know what a insurance broker is, a health benefits broker is? What would be one of the roles, would you say? Jolene? Julian, sorry. Right. And it's more than that. When you buy a house, they help you through all the compliance, and a good broker is going to do the same. They're not going to just sell you a product and then walk away. It's going to be a relationship. So we are licensed and regulated by the state. We also have to go through education courses, 24 hours of CE every single 2 years. We at MLJ try to take additional coursework, which is equivalent to college level classes. And then we all are not employees of health insurance companies, okay? I'm independent, so I'm not gonna just do what Kaiser wants me to do. I'm gonna look at United Healthcare, I'm gonna look at Anthem, I'm gonna look at some of the other options, PEOs. Some of those things are gonna be in my wheelhouse or any good broker. When I talk about brokers, I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about anyone who's really a good broker, okay? And then we don't cost you anything. We get paid by the insurance companies on a commission basis. So our goal is not to charge you money. Our goal is to have a great client base through which we earn our living and help support our office staff, okay? And the last thing is, it's a benefit you pay for whether you use it or not. So anytime we can have somebody in our corner, it's gonna help us. I want to tell you about a trip. I'm going to use a trip for my illustration. Anybody heard of the Boundary Waters in Minnesota? Yay! Some of them have heard about it because I've told them about it. But the Boundary Waters is a beautiful reserve, national registry that is, part of it is unmotored, and you can travel in it by canoe. So my husband used to go every year when he was young, and when I turned 49, guess what? I went for my very first time. And it's wonderful, it's gorgeous, but we're doing an 80-mile canoe portage trip in 8 days, okay? I'm going to be taken care of like a queen, but it's also going to be rugged and rough. And that's like starting your own company, right? And growing. It's a beautiful trip. It's what we want to do. It's what we want to achieve, but it is going to take a lot of effort. I wanted to mention before I forget why I'm holding this card is on every seat is a business card, but on the back is a URL code or QR code, and that will take you to a web page where you can get a lot of downloads and things that I talk about in this class. And we didn't want to burn down the trees. We wanted to have you have access at your place of business. Now I'm going to set that down. So we're on this trip. We're going down the river. You've started your business. Where are you headed? It's important to know where your goal is to get, right? We have to know where we're going to get. We have to know what our stopping points are along the way, where we're going to camp, what we're going to eat. You have to know those things as you grow your business. When are you going to hire your first W-2 employee? When are you going to hire your 10th? When are you going to hire your 50th? What do those mean to you as an employer offering benefits? So somebody, could you tell me what size of a company you have right now? Anybody? One? Great. I started there. Go ahead. 5. Awesome. I know some people. Go ahead. 45? Great. 12. So we have a nice range of people. I know one lady's here who hasn't hired her first W-2 yet. So we want to make sure that we talk for everybody. So this class is going to go through that. How many of you currently work with a broker? One person. Okay. 2 people. Great. And then how do you feel comfortable with benefits? When I'm talking benefits, I'm talking health insurance, I'm talking medical, dental insurance, vision insurance, disability insurance, lots of different insurance types. How many feel 3, 5, 5, 5? Great. So anybody who's a 1, please don't feel bad. That's where I was 25 years ago, okay? It's normal not to understand when you've never had your own business where to even start, and that's what I'm here for today. So as you're going along, it's beautiful. You're floating along, you're seeing beaver dams, you're seeing swans in the lake, you're sitting and eating breakfast under an eagle's nest while the babies are chirping. There's things about having your own business that are wonderful. In Colorado, small group, fully insured is the basic beginning type of insurance for a company who's starting out. This is a guarantee issue benefit. A small employer means any person, firm, a corporation, partnerships, or association that is actively equipped in business, employed an average of at least 1, but no more than 100 eligible employees in business on business days in the prior calendar year. And it has to not have been formed to purchase insurance. So what that means is you can't get your neighbor down the street and make a business that doesn't really exist just to get guarantee issue small group insurance. Now, what's the difference between small group insurance in group and in small guaranteed issue insurance in individual? The biggest difference is in group, we have a lot more plan designs. We have PPO networks. Individual only has HMO networks. They have very high out-of-pocket maximums, even though they have the different codes of level of care. So in group insurance, you can get a lot better plans, and you can also, an employee, W-2 employee, can have those premiums deducted from their wages. So how does Colorado define a small employer? The law in Colorado has allowed the carriers to require a W-2 employee relationship. You have to prove that those employees are working for you and getting taxes withheld from their wages. You have to include it. It's like bringing your freeze-dried food when you're on an 8-day excursion and no motor waters because there's no restaurants, right? It's basic. You wouldn't leave home without it. So you can't start a group plan without a W-2 employee. Now, what if you just are a partnership? You're a law partner. I get a call from a 5-person partnership, no employees, no W-2 employees. That is not a small employer, okay? It's a partnership. So you have to meet the qualifications. And that's one thing that a broker is going to talk to you about. And sometimes that's a frustrating thing because, and I'm going to try to move because that light's right in my eyes, but that's one of the things that you have to look at. A broker is going to tell you we have to have that relationship, or we have to be able to prove it with at least 2 weeks worth of payroll, okay, with more than one person enrolled. So now go ahead. Yeah?
You said more than one person there, but your slide said one person.
So the insurance companies are allowed to require a certain amount of payroll substantiation for only one person enrolled. So if you have one W-2 employee, I just talked to a lady yesterday that she has 5 employees. They've never started an employee plan, but she's hiring a new employee who doesn't have insurance. She wants to start a plan. That employee is going to have to be enrolled or be employed with 6 months worth of payroll before I can start a one-group plan. So there's all these extra little rules depending on the circumstances. So that's why somebody knowledgeable, somebody who is a broker would help you, okay? This is the little circle in the bottom. I don't know if I have a light thing. Down in the bottom, that's where we camp. That's an island. We always camp on islands. Guess why we camp on islands? Yeah, exactly. There are no bears if you're that far out in the middle of a lake. So we always look for those types of campgrounds so we can leave our food laying around because we're lazy. When we get in from a day excursion and from fishing, we do not want to be hiking everything up in the trees, right? So my husband says there's pictographs up here. See that little circle, half circle? There's pictographs up there. Let's take one canoe. So there's 3 of us on the trip. That's another thing. You want to have the right people on your trip as you grow your company, right? So there's 3 of us on this trip, my husband, his best friend, and me. I'm the only girl. And thankfully, his best friend got married, and later she went with us too, so there were 2 girls. But anyway, so let's take a day excursion from this island. It'll take us 1 day. We'll go up and see the pictographs. I'll tell you more about the pictographs in a minute. So now you have 1 or 2 employees. You're ready to start your benefits. You're ready to go on an excursion. So the first part is just canoeing across the lake into this river. That doesn't look so bad. Same thing is with your business. You hire 1 or 2, 3 employees. It's not so bad. Things are comfortable. They have their benefits through their employer. They don't need a lot. Maybe you start a plan. It's really low key. There's not really too many issues, right? Now things start to get complicated. There are certain things that the state has allowed the carriers, so people like Kaiser, people like United Healthcare, people like Anthem, they've allowed them to set these requirements. And these are requirements that a small employer broker is going to know about. If you talk to somebody who has a 500-person group, they're not going to know anything about these requirements. So you've got to find the right level of broker for you. So you can have carve-outs, meaning you can, and the IRS allows this, you can insure the management or the staff. You can insure the salary and not the hourly, or vice versa, okay? You can have owner-partner employees in certain very limited circumstances with certain carriers. You can have your headquarter. Where's your headquarter situated versus the majority of your employees? All of that is allowed up to the carriers. Does somebody have a question? Go ahead.
Does HQ still matter if you're a remote entity?
Yes, definitely.
Is that under your businesses?
Where you're formed. Yep. You have to have a physical address in the state you're trying to write the insurance. And even if all your employees are remote, you don't really list extra locations, but you will definitely play into where you pick, what type of plan you pick. And then they also have different contribution and participation strategies. So if you want to contribute 100%, you're going to be able to offer all 3 of those different carriers. If you only want to contribute 50% or 25%, you're going to have other carriers that are available to you. If everybody wants to enroll, you're going to have all those carriers. If only one person wants to enroll, you're going to have Kaiser. I would have to say, as a broker who worked with small group for a number of years, Kaiser is very eager and willing to write new business, and they make it easy for us to do it. Another one that's getting easier is Anthem. They're making it easier for us to write new companies. And as a broker, I really appreciate that. For you guys, it's a really valuable ad, right? Because you need something to get you off the ball, get the ball rolling, because you have to have benefits to attract your employees. Tips of what a good broker will need. So we want to set you up for success. I always require a phone conversation. Don't expect to email me and get a quote without talking to me. You have to spend 30 minutes on the phone with me before I'm going to be able to give you anything that I feel confident is going to work for you. So by asking questions, they're going to get information about your business and what you need, and it's going to tell me in a few minutes a few key questions. Are we looking at United, or are we looking at Kaiser? Are we looking at Anthem? Are we going to be able to do a Colorado group, or are we going to have to do a California group? What are we looking at here? So let's drill down a little bit more. We're going to need a census. A census is a list of your employees. Please don't think we're going to take this and this census and do things with it. A reputable professional broker is too busy to worry about reaching out to Jane Doe, employee Jane Doe, okay? We're HIPAA compliant. I have share file uploads, secure ways of getting me information. My goal and my office goal is to protect your information, protect my clients, protect you as an employer. So please, when they ask for a census, give them a full census. Don't just give them the ones who want the insurance, because you could have 19 people who want insurance and 60 employees on the payroll, and that's going to completely change what a broker can do for you, okay? It's not because they're nosy. We want to know our clients, but we don't want to know everybody, right? So we're not just trying to be nosy. We just need to know information so we can help you. Here's some other things that come into the rates. So the way the small group is rated is what we call ACA rating, Affordable Care Act rating. So we have to follow those types of rating schedules. The state does that. How many of you feel like insurance companies just set the rates based on what they want it to be? No, we're not that naive, are we? It feels like it sometimes, and we'd like to be mad at the insurance companies for how high the rates are. But the Division of Insurance must approve all rates, and then they release those rates, and the rates cannot change without the Division of Insurance's approval. So right now, we're all in holding pattern, right? It hasn't been released yet. They're just talking about it. Have you heard if it's been released? Because we're waiting for 2024 rates right now. The issue is the insurance companies have to file those rates by March, correct? March of the year prior. So by March of 2023, they had to have filed their 2024 rates. They have to file their claim loss. They have to file all of that with the insurance company. If the insurance company says, you're making too much money on this insurance plan, then they'll want them to lower their rates. If they're saying, you can't gouge that rate, then they're going to make them raise that rate, okay? Also, when age banded, it gives us the age bands here. That is literally why we have to have a census. We can't give you numbers without ages, and dates of birth are the most effective and efficient way to do that, because you could have an employee who you think is 50 and they're 56, and guess what? Those rates vary by $300, right? So you can't expect a broker to pull those numbers from the air. Any questions about this?
One point on that. Mm-hmm. If people are not transparent with that information, the carriers can control that.
Yeah. Well, not with small group. They can't.
But mm-hmm. You're right, but in other words,
yeah.
the quote.
Yeah, the quote is only as good as what the information is we have. And a good broker is going to, make sure you do that. We're going to tell you, I have to have these ages. I can run a quote for only the people who want the insurance to get you some numbers, but I'm going to have to know how many people you have before I can do that. I also saw some people taking pictures, and I think I failed to mention that you have, and I'm going to glance at my time, you have, I'm going to upload these on the website too, so please don't feel like, unless it's just because you want to remember them, that's fine, but. Composite rating, who knows what composite rating would be? Yeah, it's a hard concept, especially in small group. So it's available to anybody with 2+ enrolled employees, but it's not really something I recommend for a small group, like under 10 employees. It's a calculation that uses the age bands from all your employees that are enrolling, and it's an average. And every dependent affects it. Patty, how fun is it getting composite rates? So what happens is you say, I have 4 employees that want to enroll, and I actually had a client who called me with this problem. They had 4 employees that wanted to enroll. They were going to do composite rates. They got their broker sold them the plan. They were going to do composite rates 2 days before the plan goes into effect. The broker finally calls them and tells them, guess what? You had 1 person drop off. Now we only have 3, and one of them is 56, one of them is 35, and one of them is 26. Your 24-year-old dropped out. So now guess what happened to the rate? Yep. So composite, we can do it, but it's very tricky to do it when you're getting it set up. The other problem with doing it with really small is I took over the broker of record for a company who had only 6 employees. They were doing composite rates. Their composite rates were around $550 a month. They were hiring 24-year-old people. Their rates should have been in the 200s. Instead, it was in the 500s because they were in composite. As easy as switching them to age rated, I saved them over $50,000 a year. So it means a lot how you structure your benefits and how your broker is working with you and advising you. Okay, so we made it across the lake. That's the easy part. Who here has ever done a portage? Who knows what a portage is? The people who've done it and a few others. Good. So a portage is where you stop being in the water and you start walking on land. And you carry all your stuff. So this was a day excursion. So this was a very easy portage because Mary wasn't carrying all the backpack and the anchor and the fishing poles. On this one, I was only carrying a camera and our day pack. We didn't have our whole 8-day packs, right? My husband and his friend, we have old aluminum canoes, right? You're an employer who cares about your employees, and that's weighty. So you have a weighty canoe that you're going to have to carry as you portage. So we have more options, not just small group options, for employers who are savvy. They want to make sure they're doing the best thing for their company and for their employees, and it has more involvement. Another, she's already there, look at her. There's another option available, it's called level funded, and I have a little video that's going to play and describe it. But let me stop real quick and ask, does anybody have questions? And we can take questions at the end about small employer, small group, guarantee issue Colorado.
The small group can be a single entity inside the organization, or does it need to be a member too?
So it depends on who that, yeah, you have to have a bona fide W-2 employee. Yeah, yeah. Any?
If you have an entity that's taxed as an S corp, that could be a single owner is also getting a W-2.
But it's an owner. So no owner-only policies in Colorado small group, because as soon as we had ACA where we had guarantee issue and an individual, they made groups of one invalid and owner groups, mainly owner groups, invalid, because we can still do a group of one, just takes a little bit of effort. Good question though. They're really sticklers about that. Everybody is. It's against the law for Kaiser or for somebody else to offer a plan where an owner, S Corp company, doesn't have a W-2 employee and gets a group plan. Now, if with Kaiser, they can do better than state law. So if you have one W-2 employee who doesn't want the benefits and you're the owner and you want to enroll, Kaiser will insure you. They're the only one out of the 3 in the state that will. Couple other things. One of the carriers has a tendency to audit the really small groups. So we have to keep you compliant at all moments throughout the year, and especially at renewal time, to make sure you are following. If you have 10 employees and you only have 1 enrolled and the other 9 don't have insurance and we can't prove it, they're going to pull your policy. I just got a call from a small company, 4 employees, actually 10 employees, but they only had 3 enrolled on the benefits because they, in their mind, were doing a management carve-out group, and United Healthcare doesn't allow it for under 5 enrolled employees. So United pulled their policy, and we had to move them to Anthem because Anthem doesn't do that. And they allow a carve-out for a smaller group as long as you have meet those requirements of the W-2 employee enrolled. So let's go ahead with level funded. So that's a really brief overview, but it's a really clear overview of what level funded is. And it's a really popular way to insure companies right now in Colorado and in all the nation. It is a great option. There's no risk to the employer because we still have Colorado Small Group we can move back to. So in fully insured, we spoke about how the Division of Insurance has all types of approval rights. The premiums are predictable, your guarantee issue. Self-insured is another type that we only recommend for very large companies who have a lot of operating capital and a lot of employees. They cover all their own claims risks with their own funds and then are assisted with what we call third-party management services. They're also pharmacy managers, claims networks. There's all kinds of things in self-funded that you're, as a broker who specializes in that. I don't do it, but I would recommend you somebody, I can recommend somebody who does. But you have to be a really big company, okay, to get that going. Level funded takes the best of both worlds. For a small employer, it's a really great option. So here we can do it down to 2. I don't really recommend that unless you know your group's super healthy. It's a mix because the employer funds a certain dollar amount of the claims. So normally a $20,000, $30,000 stop loss, we call it, that you're going to cover as an employer. The insurance company, when they give you the quote, they already figure out what your risk is for your group. I'll go over why. And then they tell you how much of your premium dollars are going to go into that claim fund because they expect a certain amount of claim loss. Okay, we're all going to have something happen throughout the year, right? You have 10 employees. Somebody might get pregnant. Somebody might have appendicitis. You have things happen. So you have to have money in that claim fund. The insurance company does the heavy lifting here. They're the ones who have the actuarials. They're the ones who figure this all out. So they get paid an administrative cost, and then they also insure you on the back end for those large claims. So let's say we have $1 million baby with that pregnancy. So you need somebody that's going to cover really the whole cost after your stop loss, and that's what the insurance companies who offer this agree to do. okay? These plans are awesome because they look at your company. They don't, Colorado Smart Group is community rated for everybody in the same service area at the same age on the same plan. So they cover all types of things that the state mandates, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But this type of policy is going to be great coverage, especially the ones that somebody who's a, what do I want to say? A broker who really wants her clients to succeed, or somebody, a broker who really, whether it's male or female, wants their clients to succeed and isn't just about selling the cheapest product. If you call me up and ask for cheap insurance, I'm going to tell you to call somebody else, because there is not such a thing. So level funded, the employee premiums cover all the cost, and then the insurance company manages everything. So you're not going out and shopping for a management team, a pharmacy coverage. Everything's included by that insurance company. So from groups to 15 to 200, you're mainly going to stay in fully insured, or you're going to be level funded. You're not going to go to the self-funded market. Key factors. If a group is healthy, then level funded rates can look attractive. But keep in mind that the level funded rates are underwritten, and more information is needed. So here we have the information that we're going to need. We need to know claim history if possible. They're going to look at the health history of this, so we have to have census demographics of anybody who could be on the plan if you're starting up. If you're currently offering a plan, they'll look at whoever's enrolled. They want to know COBRA participants. COBRA participants are really high risk, so it's not going to be something state continuation. It's not going to be something that they're going to really attract, because there's a reason that person's staying on the group plan and not going to the individual market. Then you have to, if you have coverage, you have to submit a renewal, and the underwritten rates take a little bit longer. Okay, so it takes a little bit of time to get that information back. You fall under different laws. So it falls under what we call ERISA law, and this is really deep. I'm not going to go into it all, but not necessarily ACA laws. You have to do different filings, 1094s, 1095s, PCORI fees. Sometimes your plans won't include the state mandates. I just had a company that was written on a plan that was offered by a PEO, not one of the ones in this room. They didn't cover diabetic medicine, right? So it's written by the insurance carriers. It's outside of the Division of Insurance. It's outside of the state. So they can do pretty much anything they want. So that's why it's really important for you to make sure you work with a reputable broker. It doesn't have to have pediatric dental and vision. I always encourage companies to offer standalone dental and vision anyway, so that people who don't need the medical can still get the dental and vision, and so that children's dental doesn't have to hit a medical out-of-pocket maximum or deductible. COBRA can apply, but Colorado Small Group state continuation doesn't. And then regardless of size, we have to file those tax forms I mentioned, the 1094 and 1095. So we've done our portage. We've went up the lake, the river, Basswood River we're going up. It's beautiful. It's a really nice day, but there's some clouds in the sky. If you notice on this picture here, there's a division. The river goes around that island. Keep that in mind. Very important for when we hit compliance waters. We get there. We're looking at the pictographs. You have 25 employees. You have whatever your goal is for employees. You're there at the goal. So this is the rock. These pictographs were here in this river when the first French traders came from France. So they're hundreds of years old. They believe that that crevice that you see with the green on the left side, that was a boundary between one tribe and another, because when they first came, there were all kinds of arrows stuck in that rock. And they would have competitions, one tribe over another, to see who could get to the highest. So we see a little, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little deer with a fawn and a pelican. These pictographs are about 12 to 15 feet higher than the water. So it was worth it. It was a fun day. Now we turn around. We're going to head back the way we came. As you're growing, You have to keep in mind that things are going to change. Just like when we turned around, when we got to the picture glass and we were going just back the way we came, things are not the same. So now you've hit that 50 mark, okay? Now keep in mind, applicable large employer can still be a small group according to Colorado law until you get to 100. So all the things we've talked about for small group still apply. If the employee, but wait, what if you're doing this, your applicable large employer, you see those two things, ACA, applicable large employer calculation, and controlled groups. We turn around and we see clouds, okay? As we start talking about this stuff, some of these things, this hitting the 50 mark, it's 50, right, Patty? I'm all of a sudden scared I'm saying the wrong number. So, oh, here it is right here. So, what is an ALE? First of all, we're going to talk about controlled groups in a minute, what that means. So, you got to kind of put that aside. But full-time or full-time equivalent employees. Who knows what a full-time equivalent employee is? Go ahead.
Yeah, 30 hours a week.
Yeah. So you take your employees, say you have 10 working 20 hours, you take those and you add up their hours and then you divide it by 30 and you come up with your full-time equivalent. So when you get to 45 employees and you have 10 part-time, there's a good chance you're an applicable large employer, okay? So don't assume because your full-times are under 50 that you're under 50. If you're running really heavy on part-time employees, make sure you could have 60, 70 of those and still be an applicable large employer even though everybody's part-time, okay? So a good broker is going to talk to you about that and help you make sure you stay on top of that because you want to plan for that change, okay? It's not something, I have groups that are saying I'm not going to get to 50. They don't want to be 50, okay? There's reasons not to go there if you don't have to go way past there. Controlled group. So controlled group, who's heard of that phrase? Commonly owned. It's a hard phrase, but what it means if you have two or more businesses that have common or related ownership, they're treated as a single employer. So this comes into play for COBRA as well and other other federal mandates, but especially for applicable large employers. There's a lot of verbiage here. I'm not going to go through it all. But the reason I bring it up is these are big storm clouds because you have to know that you're going to have mandates when you hit this part. You're at 45, right? Is that what you said? Yeah. So you guys are right there where you're going to hit that mark. What happens? You have to offer benefits. Anybody under that does not have to. You don't have to offer your benefits. You might need to offer benefits to attract employees, but you don't have to if you're under 50. It has to be minimal essential coverage, so you have to offer what the government says is minimal, and you have to hit minimal value, meaning 60% of the expense cover of the medical expenses, expected medical expenses will be covered by insurance, and it has to be affordable. So you as an employer, Mr. Employer, Miss Employer, you have to make sure the employee is not paying more than 9.12% of his wages on his or her own premium after your contribution. So you have a 60-person group. You only want to pay $150 per employee. Guess what? It's not affordable, right? You can pick the lowest plan. You can offer different levels of plan. The lowest cost plan is going to be what that's based off. But if you're not careful with it, then you could make it unaffordable. All of this is really serious. So my husband and my friend, my pal, Mike, we turn around, we see the storm clouds, and they're like, we better get moving. We got to make it back to the lake, right? The island in the middle of the lake. And I hear crack. His paddle broke, my husband's, in the back. Literally broke. Thankfully, because we had the right team, Mike had taken an extra paddle and put it in the canoe. I was sitting in the center, so I couldn't really paddle, but he thought, well, if Mary needs to help us, she can help us. Well, thank goodness. I'm not happy the paddle broke, but I was really happy I couldn't help anymore, or wasn't responsible, but it broke. A broken paddle is when you have these requirements and you don't have anything in place to protect you, okay? Your broker's going to help you make sure you know where you are. Make sure you have a paddle that's going to stay in place. They're going to give you tools to do calculations. Here's the penalties. If you don't choose to offer coverage, you can be fined $27.50 for each full-time employee, minus the first 30. If you have an employee go to the exchange, thank you, and Connect for Health here in Colorado and get a subsidy, they'll fine you $4,120 for every full-time employee who gets a subsidy. That's per year. How do they know? Everybody has to report a 1095, right? There's no individual mandate anymore, but employers still have to report, and the insurance companies have to report who has insurance and who doesn't. And so that's how the IRS and the Department of Labor, I think it is tracking this stuff. So just make sure that you have a capable broker. A good payroll vendor also will help provide tools you can use to determine affordability and file forms. There's third-party administrators that I love to connect my clients with and make sure that they can get the forms they need.
I have a question. So 2023, dumpster fires for layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
When an organization is over the 50 employee marker and then goes way under the 50 employees, so we started at 80, broke it down to 12.
Mm-hmm.
How does that change, and how do that work?
So you want to, yeah, so one of the tools that I use is called Ease, and it's a portal. There's Employee Navigator. So I can turn on a tool that's super easy. I do it all the time to see where an employer, it's more than 50% of the days of the preceding year. So that's what you have. Mm-hmm. So you could have lost all your employee base and still be considered ALE because 6 months of the year prior you were. Okay. Yeah. And the same thing happens between the small group COBRA and federal COBRA. You can switch back and forth, but it's based on the prior year. 101 full-time employees. That's a large group. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it here, but the difference is the rates are always composite. It's negotiable. The carriers can't deny you, but they can rate it so high you don't do it. And there may be some plan flexibility. And you still have the applicable large employer mandate. Any questions on large group? I have Patty here and Linda. And but, you know, one of the options, too, I want to give a shout out. JustWorks is here, and G&A Partners is here. I think somebody registered from TriNet. There's a number of what we call PEOs. They're a preferred employer organization. They'll do payroll, HR, and benefits. But one thing is to keep in mind, a broker can connect you to them. So if it's not a good fit, if you want to make sure you're with a reputable PEO, and if you want to always have that broker in your back pocket letting you know, hey, this is really where you belong, or letting you know, hey, I really don't think this is a good idea. There's brokers out there who think PEOs are the enemy. I'm not one of those. I think they have their place and they help companies grow. But you know, it's not a fit for everybody, and not every, like G&A is awesome, they're wonderful, I love working with Linda, but it's not always the best fit. So a broker is going to help you look. You're not just going to get a internal salesperson who says every time my thing's the best. Go ahead.
I have a question, just like, so if you have a broker and you're in a policy, like, I like an insurance plan that I have for my physician, but my broker's kind of awful. Like,
We hear that occasionally.
like, it was really good, like, she was great at helping us find a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I only have a staff of 7, and I really only have like 3 people who opt into insurance, and most of them are more part-time. I do it because I don't ever want to have an employee that needs insurance.
Right.
But like dropping or changing or whatever is like kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So I guess if you like your plan and maybe you want to change your broker, is there avenues for doing that?
Yeah. So a broker is your decision, okay? Like I said, and I think you were here, but you are paying for their commissions and the premiums you pay to the insurance company. A broker does not affect your policy, okay? There are some brokers out there who might not be able to sell certain carriers because the carriers have been a little, some carriers, one in particular, has been a little picky about who's writing their plans. I fortunately am one of the people they like. So I can sell all 3 small group plans. So a broker can work with what you have set up. What I like to do when somebody comes to me and says, I have a broker, I already have a plan, is I like to review it, make sure I know where you're at, and get there before the renewal happens, because then I can help you for the renewal, and we can really make sure you're doing the right thing. Okay? Oh yeah, there's some forms you have to sign, but it doesn't affect your contract with the insurance company.
When you say before renewal, do you mean like, so most renewals are happening now, September, October timeframe? Do you mean like you want to get involved in
Now.
July, August?
Well, now I could get involved. I mean, I'm small and nimble. Yeah, yeah. I'm small and nimble. It depends on the workload. You know, and it's the better earlier the better. But it's not something that just don't call the broker on the 9th of October for a November 1st renewal.
Right.
That's happened. So just want to go over really quick. We have good handouts over here. I know I'm just about out of time. But if you have handouts over here, please, or not handouts, giveaways. And I have a really fun bag. Leanna, could you grab my Aflac bag? So I have some stuff from Aflac, I have some stuff from Delta Dental, and I have some stuff from Kaiser. So we got to the waterfalls. Remember that island? Well, now we only have 2 paddles. We have to get on the right side of that water. Compliance can be a killer. Just going to double check something. Oh, I think I have that. I have 15 minutes yet.
Yeah, but you want to know.
Oh, that's what you meant. I was like, oh my God. Sorry. So we're at the waterfalls. See that little bank right there on that left side? So we have to go on the right side, and we have to get to the left side. Your team's going to make all the difference here. I have Lee behind me, my husband of 40 years, and I have Mike, his best friend, who's solid as a rock. But we have to get up this water with 2 paddles and then cross. Who knows about crossing water in a canoe? You don't do it broadside. So we get on the side, you know, they're all confident. We got this, we got this. They're paddling. We're going upriver. We're coming up to the waterfall. They go on the right side, and guess what? The eddy pulls us almost into the waterfall. We're all grabbing for trees trying to stop before we get into the waterfall. And we have to cross right in front of the waterfall as almost direct. So you can be going along and doing everything right and know what you're doing. I had 2 very capable outdoors men taking care of me. But you can end up in an eddy, pulling you somewhere you had no plans to go. Compliance. Now we're talking federal law, state law, Department of Labor law, fines by the IRS. Who's dealt with compliance issues? These 3, 4. They can be pain. They can be dangerous. You can lose your business. The stuff we were talking about for an applicable large employer could be nothing compared to what, if you're not running your plan compliant, could happen to your business. So, anybody have experiences? I have a couple. I have an employer who came to me as a broker of record. They weren't getting all their waivers signed when people didn't want the insurance. They just said if they wanted it, they signed it. If they didn't do anything. So we get them set up right. They're going to go into Ease, my online enrollment portal. Employees are going to say they do not want it or they do want it. And they have to sign. And they have to have it done before open enrollment ends. We have a new hire. Month before open enrollment, she's eligible. Getting her to log in and sign that waiver was like pulling teeth. She called me 3 times to talk about the plans, and then she waived. Then open enrollment. Pulls me aside at open enrollment, talks to me about the plans. She's the last one to get her waiver signed. 2 weeks later, she quits. A week after that, she calls up the office manager and says, your insurance won't pay my emergency room bill. But what does the office manager have? A signed waiver. Go ahead. So that could have went disastrous. That's not even bad if it's just an emergency room bill. If she didn't have the waiver, if the office manager, that employer could have been liable if they couldn't prove, yes, this employee had the rights that every other 30 employees had. I had another client just the other day. They do their ERISA plans. They file them with a third-party administrator. They have a lady who has a car wreck. It doesn't affect them, but she gets a lawyer. They're going to sue for the medical coverage part, and he wants a copy of their ERISA paperwork because he wants to be able to prove what the coverage is and what all this stuff is and whether or not the employee was enrolled and whether or not she had the rights that she should have had. This employer already has those paperwork. She sends them off. Okay? There's different compliances for different levels of companies. So every company must give benefits notices. ERISA, which is a summary plan document. It is not a 2-page document. It's like 12 pages. It is legal. You have discrimination. You do not want to give to one employee what you won't give to another employee in the same class. So you can't tell your favorite employee, I'm going to pay for your kids. Just don't tell nobody. And then for an employee that just started, has 4 kids, say, we don't offer dependent coverage. Or we don't pay for our dependents, for our employees' dependents. That's against the law. You cannot do that. An employer, a good broker is going to help you set up your administration of your plan so you're not in risk. Who knows what Colorado state continuation is? Go ahead.
So it's the continuation contract that's offered to your employees for up to 12 months, so it has to go through insurance. Provider or program.
It's 18 months for Colorado. Hey, Leanna, bring me my bag is the Aflac bag, that purple one? This is my niece, Leanna. She joined today, so she didn't have to go to school. No. She's in a public speaking class, so I told her to come with me. You want a duck or a football? I think it's the only one. Let me see if it actually works. I don't know if it works. Whoops. I'm a bad thrower. Here you go, sir. Aflac's an awesome thing. Oh, man. I'll send out some more in a minute. So state continuation is you have to offer it if the employee's been on your plan for 6 months. It has to last for 18 months. Now, there are some other rules about it. I recommend an administrator. You can do it yourself, but I have some great administrators for 70 cents per employee or $50 a year. Okay? They'll do it for you, and they deal with that employee. So remember, we're crossing the waterfall, right? I have an employer who has an employee who quit, who becomes the little dinosaur in Jurassic Park that kind of you thought was cute, because they want stuff that maybe they want not to have to pay on time. They don't know what it means to sign the forms. They need a lot of help. An employer shouldn't be dealing with that. You want to make sure that they get to their help from a third party, an outside party, where there's not that former employee-employer relationship. When you get to 20 plus for 50% of the preceding calendar year, and you're at 20 employees, you become COBRA. COBRA is federal. It's different. So state continuation starts after the person's been on the plan for 6 months here in Colorado. Now, every state's different. So if you hire somebody, if you're remote, somebody asked about a remote question earlier. If you hire somebody in Texas, it's 3 months. If you hire somebody in another state, it's in 0 days. So every state's different, so that's why it's good to get an administrator as well, so they can keep track of the state laws. But COBRA, how long does the employee have to be on the plan before they get the right to continue their coverage when they leave your employment. Anybody know? How many days does an employee have to be on the plan before they can have and they leave you, then they become eligible for a COBRA to continue under your plan?
Will they have up to 6 days?
Nope.
Elected after they leave.
Yeah. Right. So they have time to elect it. But how many days, how many minutes do they have to work for you? No, for COBRA. 1 minute, right. Oops. Oops, that was a bad throw. See, underhanded's no good. They have to be on the benefit. Yeah, they had to be on the benefit. Sorry if I'm not wording it right. So they have to be on the benefit, but they can only have to be on it for like 1 minute, literally. They could show up for work if you have a date of hire start date, which I never recommend, and they come to work, and they're on the benefit plan, they fill out their form, and they walk out the door. Now they have COBRA rights for 18 months. COBRA can continue for up to 5 years. So there's all kinds of qualifying events within those 18 months. If a death happens, if a divorce happens, if somebody ages off. So always, always, always get an administrator for this. Do not try to do it in-house. It is going across the waterfall with Mary's fingers on the canoe. Try not to scream. That's what it's like to have COBRA. 4 minutes left. Who wants a baby football? Want one? Ah! Go long. And there's 5 more, so come up and grab them if you want. Family is Colorado's Leave Act. Need help with it? I'm not an administrator. I do offer benefits, private insurance for that solution, okay? FMLA is federal. They run concurrent, but FMLA has to be 50 employees within a 50-mile radius of your headquarters of one location. Can you read that? So this is a list that I give my employers that are trying to grow. You have your requirements for 1 to 19, your requirements for 20, and then your requirements for 50. A lot of them they all build on one another pretty much, but you want to plan for this. You don't want to say, hey, we're going to go to 100 employees in 6 months. You want to know what that means for your HR, for your administration, for your legal team, okay? Don't just start it. Any other questions?
I have a question about family because it's coming up on January 1. It's everyone's biggest problem right now.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so for example, the law is stating that you can have 1 employee and then you have to have the insurance paid. You have to pay into the insurance for a family, right? What if you're an individual founder, or you have 1 employee and then you don't want to take advantage of all the benefits? Can I use a broker like you for just your resource to the family?
You have to have family. You have to do family, yeah. So you want to make sure yeah. You can waive as an owner.
Okay.
So I've waived mine, and then, I've waived my insurance, my family, but my employee is paying her. Now, if you're under 3 or 5, under 5, you don't have to pay the employer portion, only the employees withholding. It's 10. It's under 10. Sorry.
Really confusing. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
how do we talk about this?
Yeah. Well, that's its own presentation. Yeah. 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 It is. And you're right. It's 10. The 5-person. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. The 5-person is the private insurers will not write a separate family plan, so you don't have to be part of the state. So what I'm recommending my clients is go with a private insurance instead of having go with a private insurer instead of going with the state. There's a few reasons why. I'm afraid the plan is going to be defunct within a very short amount of time. Number 2, the state has never paid these types of claims. Everybody's going to be filing on 1/1/24. You want your employees not coming to you and saying, I haven't gotten my money. I'm taking my leave, but I haven't got my money. You don't want that. You want them to be able to get their money, and a private insurer is going to be able to guarantee that. On top of that, if you have short-term disability, it'll feed right into the short-term disability, so you don't have to do separate filings and claims. But if you have less than 5 employees, it's real. I think Hartford, but I understand if it's 10, but I think Hartford will write if a private plan for less than 5 for the family administration. Yeah. And you have to have other products with the disability carriers in order to get an outside vendor to carry it. Anybody who's made $25,000 in the last year, I think it's $25,000, has to have that. And it's a really big issue. In addition, you also have to have if somebody's been pregnant, gave birth in the last year, they get to take leave on 1/1.
If they're still under the...
No, it doesn't matter. They just file.
Until their child's 1, though. Like, so
Right. So 12 months. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of claims going in. So.
So I just want to make sure I understood what Atlas just said. So assuming someone just went on parental leave for 12 weeks coverage by the organization that's current with FMLA, they still have the eligibility to use family leave come January.
They have to run concurrent. Yeah. So even though we have a lot of problems and a lot of issues, we had a wonderful trip. This is a view of the lake we camped on. There's my husband fishing down on the shore. Fishing up there is to die for. The bass, I have never gotten so addicted to fishing in my life. I caught 5 18-inch bass in 8 casts.
Wow.
So it is a blast. The feeling of accomplishment, of running your own business, the joys of knowing you're taking care of your employees, nothing can equate to that. Just like nothing can equate to the way it feels to know you're woman enough to make 8 days and 80 miles camping and eating freeze-dried food and fish. But it's a wonderful feeling, isn't it, you guys? To have your own business, to be your own, to make decisions that help protect people and help your employees. So work with somebody to help you get there. There's a lot of people like myself. Earlier I had, and I forgot to mention it, NABIP is a National Association of Brokers and Insurance Producers, and this is how I know all these wonderful people in this room in this front, because through NABIP, there are people who want to be professionals at their job, and we want to take really good care of our clients, and they take really great care of me, and so I want to take really good care of my clients, and a lot of brokers out there feel the same way. The thing is to get with a broker who wants the type of business you are. So there's a lot of big broker houses out there who want the business, but they'll never call you back. They'll never do a renewal review with you. They'll never help you. You'll be emailing a round table to get some help. But there's also brokers who their job is to take care of their clients. So find one of those. If it's not me, I'd love to help you. But if it's not me, that's fine. There's plenty of work out there. And I'm not a great fit for everybody because I'm going to make sure you're compliant. I want to make sure you can enjoy some time like that because you're not paying for a huge compliance issue. I really thank everybody for their time. I'm very honored to have you with me and hope we can connect later.